Hello, and welcome to the Bold Leadership Story Show, where we talk about experiences shaping exceptional lives. And today, I'm thrilled to be able to have some time chatting with Alyssa Chavez. And Alyssa is a very busy lady. She's got tons of stuff going on. She just started a brand new podcast, and she's working at ABA, the dance studio, and she's got just tons of really, really cool stuff going on in the community. So I'm thrilled to have some time. Welcome to the show, Alyssa.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think this is a wonderful presentation that you have put together, all the different guests and everything that you have on here. So I am honored to be a part of it today.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Had some really great, had everybody on the show just definitely added and been very generous with their stories. So it's always fun
Yeah.
to have new stories to talk about. And today, I'm really curious to know more about endo. Endo's it's like this. It's got to be a name that's means something. I don't really know what endo is. You endo belly girl. What is this endo? Can you give us some idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So endo is really short for endometriosis, just because endometriosis is a mouthful, and when you're talking about it all the time, it's just easier to shorten it. So endometriosis is a condition where tissue that's similar to the lining that grows inside of your uterus, the endometrial lining, ends up growing in other parts where it shouldn't. So it can grow on places like your ovaries, your bowels, your bladder, mostly within the pelvis, but sometimes it can go beyond that as well. It does some crazy things in people's bodies. And really, it causes a lot of pain and fatigue and discomfort and just
Hmm.
can really wreak havoc on your life. So
So
that's,
you've suffered from this, I'm taking it.
yes. Yeah, I've had endometriosis. Well, I was diagnosed about 4 or 5 years ago, but I really had struggled with symptoms back to high school. When I look back and reflect on things, I had no idea at
Yeah,
the time, but my body was telling me way back then that there was something going on. So,
interesting. Yeah, sometimes you just don't know, huh? You just kind of think,
mhm.
oh, this is normal. But
Yep.
yeah, we've known each other for a long time. You and my daughter are the same age. You were in the same class, my daughter
Hmm.
Chelsea. And
Yep.
yeah, and I remember you guys dancing together and palling around. You'd come over to the house and you
Hmm.
guys would goof around together. So I've known you for a minute. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. So and you're all grown up.
Yeah, that happens.
Yes, it does. Unfortunately. Well, yeah, it's so now you're the endo warrior turned nutritional therapy practitioner and restorative wellness practitioner.
Hmm.
So those are sound like two very, you know, very big things. A nutritional therapy practitioner. I remember I got to go through one of your early analyses of
Hmm.
nutrition. It was very thorough and you went into everything and you gave me, gosh, tons of time afterwards to kind of talk through what was going on. And it was a great session. So I really appreciated that. And I learned a bunch of stuff that I didn't know. So yeah, food is so important. And
Hmm.
then you've gone on now since then to learn about restorative wellness, and you're now a practitioner with that. So tell me about those two things and why do you do them together?
Yeah, well, they really work very synergistically together. And I really, like I already mentioned, had gotten into this, because of my own personal history. Just to rewind a little bit here to as to like why and how I even discovered this and got into it in the first place.
Yeah.
I was just really struggling with endometriosis symptoms. Like it was one of those things that it was really kind of taking over my life. Like I was really struggling with pain. When I was on my period, I would be having 2 or 3 days where I had to completely just lay on the couch, couldn't physically even stand up straight. I had to crawl up the stairs of my
Mm.
house if I wanted to get upstairs because walking wasn't going to happen. Just very disruptive to my day-to-day life. And I was, at the time, in my late 20s was really struggling even with fatigue, like just getting through my day was really hard. Just all these little things going on. My husband and I were struggling with fertility and just so many little things that I just felt like were adding up to something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I initially started going to a doctor like many people do, and that I was able to actually receive a diagnosis initially just through ultrasound and later on via a laparoscopic surgery that I had about a year ago. And through that process, I was finding that the medical route was just not working for me, not really enough
Okay.
for me. And I just wanted to learn more. I didn't want to have to rely on medications for my whole life and not really understand what was going on. I wanted to be able to dig deeper. And that's what these programs that I ended up going through really gave me. So I initially got into all of this for my own health, but realized along the way how much this could help so many other people. And so that's really what I started doing, was finding a way that I could use this to help anyone and everyone who also needed help. So I started off at the Nutritional Therapy Association. That's where I got the Nutritional Therapy Practitioner certification.
Mm-hmm.
And that program, which Jim was kind enough to be one of my practice clients when I was going through the program. So he was
Yeah,
one of
the,
the
the
very,
crash
very,
test dummy.
yep,
It
one
was
of the
painless.
very first people I got to work with in this process, which was a lot of fun. And I really loved that program as far as just being able to learn the ins and outs of food and what it does for your body, why we need certain nutrients, how we can get certain nutrients in our bodies, the basics of how we can use supplements to support our bodies and things like that.
Well, I tell you what, that's so important. I've learned so much in the last 3 or 4 years about nutrition and food and how it affects you. So important to having a good, healthy life experience. Definitely worth learning about and doing and practicing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, as I was going through and learning all this stuff, it just made me realize, first of all, kind of what a lack of education there is in general about nutrition and just how to take care of yourself and how to feed yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Things that really should even just be taught to in school. But what ends up happening is that, like you and me, we end up going off and having to do our own research and kind of digging in because we know that there is a better way to support our bodies. And I think that's what so many people run into, just realizing,
Right.
wait a minute,
Yeah,
something's
I'd made a
missing here.
decision. Sounds like you had made a decision to kind of separate myself from the Western medicine strategy of, you know, giving you a diagnosis and then prescribing some medication that doesn't really solve the problem, but it tends to mask the problem. And
Exactly.
the functional side, the actual cause continues on. And
Mhm.
there's always side effects. There's always something else that happens and you never get better. You just maybe feel a little better over time because of the medications, but it never gets healed and you never understand why. And it degrades your life. It adds stress, all kinds of problems that I've experienced. And I can see maybe that you've gotten the same kind of experience with your journey too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why this is kind of just my personality too, where if I learn something, I have to learn more. Like I learned the nutrition
Yeah.
piece and was like, wow, this is mind blowing. I learned so much. What else is there?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And so that's really talking about the functional work. That's really why I got into the becoming a restorative wellness practitioner. And honestly, I think that was the best decision I ever made in my life because it takes all of that foundational work on learning how food impacts your body and how to, optimize some of the systems in our body, like your blood sugar regulation and your digestion and things like that. And it
Yeah.
takes it all to a much deeper level because
I have
what I
my
use.
my little blood
Oh,
glucose
nice.
ketone meter that I use.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great little tool to use.
Yeah, and so I know exactly what you're saying. So the
Yeah.
the functional side, talk a little bit about that. What does that mean, and why is it that what have you done to help people? What do you do to help people understand what's really going on? better than their
Yeah.
doctor might. Not that you're a
Right.
doctor, right? You're not.
Right. I'm not a doctor. The programs that I've done are all certification programs. So I'm not a licensed medical practitioner by any means, but it doesn't mean there's not still a lot of work to be done outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the work that I do when we're talking functional works, I think that's a term that a lot of people maybe aren't really familiar with. Basically what that means is that we're using testing to really dig in and try to figure out kind of the root cause of what's actually going on in your body. So the primary tools that I use in my practice are tools to figure out what's going on in your gut primarily and what may be contributing to inflammation, because that's a huge piece, not just for endometriosis, but for a
So
lot
many
of
other things.
a lot of health conditions that may
So when you
be.
say gut, what does that mean? I mean, that seems like such a visceral, like macho guy term. I got
Yeah, I
socked in
mean,
the gut.
yeah.
But
Yeah, when we're talking gut, what we're really talking about is everything along the digestive process. So when I'm looking at digestion, I'm looking at it from a north to south process, meaning, how is it working even from the level of your brain? Like, is your brain sending the right signals to work your digestive system properly? Going on to how you're breaking down food as you chew it, as it goes through your stomach. Do you have the proper digestive enzymes in your stomach to break down food? And then how the food is going through the rest of your digestive system. Is everything traveling at the speed that it should, or is it too fast or too slow, which results in constipation or diarrhea, everybody's favorite. And then also, is your microbiome balanced? So one of the main tests that I use is the GI map, which is a stool test. And that gives us a wonderful inside picture of what's actually going on. I can actually see on paper the balance of bacteria in your gut, because we want to have bacteria. We want to have what's called the good gut bugs that are beneficial to our health, that help to break down food in our body that we may not be able to digest on our own. They have a lot of byproducts that are actually really beneficial for our health. But then there's also the bad gut bugs that end up causing a lot of issues. They can cause inflammation. They can cause pain in your gut. They can cause, the diarrhea or constipation type symptoms. I know this is what everybody wanted to hear about today.
you know what? I'm actually
Humbly.
excited because
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying. And you're getting me curious enough to want to do one of those maps.
Yeah. Oh, I'd be happy to do that with you. I absolutely love getting the data back and just really digging in and figuring out what's going on. It really helps to give a lot of insight. And the thing is that a lot of people also don't really relate gut health with what other health conditions may be going on in their body. Like, just speaking to endometriosis, because that's what I work with and that's what I've struggled with myself. We
Right.
think of it as being a reproductive disorder.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah, I don't want to steal the thunder from the ladies, but it's like, I'm thinking maybe it might be fun to have you do that test and then do a follow-up interview
yeah.
and
Oh, that would
share
be
the
fun.
results on the show. I,
Like a
I,
before and after.
I haven't. You and I haven't talked about this, so I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm thinking it
Yeah,
might be kind of fun.
I would be down for that. I think that would be a lot of fun. Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting just to start to make those connections, right? Like, because inflammation in and of itself is a huge piece of the puzzle for so many people. Any
Mm-hmm.
sort of health
Oh,
conditions you've got going on, whether it's, reproductive type issues, or some people may have direct digestive symptoms, like they're experiencing bloating on a regular basis, or just feel like they can't eat anything, or experiencing a ton of food sensitivities and things like that.
right.
And that's all stuff that I work through with my clients. I do a food sensitivity test also. It's a blood test, which actually tests your immune reaction in your blood directly, which gives us some insight as to how food might be directly contributing to inflammation. And, even we're looking at markers like if you may be sensitive to gluten, if you are breaking down fats well, if you are actually producing the digestive enzymes that you need. So many things that can contribute to kind of the downstream symptoms that we experience on a day-to-day basis. And just
Mm-hmm.
speaking in broader terms, that can be pain in many different forms. Fatigue is absolutely a huge part of that. Even things like skin conditions, if you're experiencing, eczema or acne or, different things that present themselves on your skin. Like there's so many things that can end up relating back to the health of your gut. Even mental health is actually a big thing. I know some practitioners who work specifically in that area where they'll help people with anxiety or depression by working on their gut health, which I think is so interesting and such a piece of the puzzle that nobody really talks about.
Mm. It's amazing, isn't it? It's like all these things that we are kind of brought up now to think, oh, that's normal. The brain fog. And I grew up, I had eczema, dandruff all the time, and
Mhm.
all these problems. And it's like, now that I've studied and I do a much different program now
Yeah.
with my diet and exercise and sleep patterns and meditation and managing my stress. Um, all that has helped me. And my eczema and all the stuff that I had is gone. I've had skin tags disappear, moles disappear. I've had, I had a test done by Viome.com, and it
Mm.
came back where they test your metabolic age versus your chronologic age. And I'm younger, actually. So the
Nice.
cells are getting younger. So
Yeah, that's
uh,
great.
yeah, it's really great. And that's like concrete evidence that this is working for me.
Hmm.
And so, yeah. And so what you're doing is you're helping people, like you do sounds like a really comprehensive diagnostic
Yeah.
set of tests. And then you have coaching.
Hmm.
Tell me about your coaching. What do you do there?
Yeah. So what I do is I absolutely use the test results, and that gives us kind of that hard data, but I also do a lot of just talking to the person. And I think that's something that a lot of us miss
Right.
in the world of Western medicine as well. I work very closely with my clients, like for my very first session, and that's what I did with you back, when we were working
Right.
together. I
Yeah.
do
Well,
a
most
90
doctors, they're like, hey, I got 5 minutes.
exactly.
And they got to go through all these numbers and boom, 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 and next,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
don't have time. It's
Right.
really not their fault. I'm
It's
sure
not.
most of them would love to spend more time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so many doctors go into the field that they're in because they want to help people, but just
Right.
unfortunately, the way that things are structured within that realm, it's just so hard to really give that in-depth one-on-one attention. And that's where I think blending those two things can be really beneficial. You can work with a licensed medical provider when you need that, but
Sure.
then just know that there's also alternatives, different ways that you can get support for your body when you need kind of that deeper layer of support.
Uh-huh.
Um, that's what I really love. My favorite part of working with my clients really is getting to know them as a person. Like I know every one of their names. We meet very regularly. Like when I work with clients, I typically do a 6-month program. So it's not like we just meet once and then I don't see you again for 2 or 3 months. We do an initial 90-minute session. That's where I
Wow.
start everybody. So we go into everything. I will know so many things about you, about everything, your medical history, your use of antibiotics and other medications, your even your mom and dad's and other family members' health, your childhood, like your history, the things that you've tried that have worked, that haven't worked, what you're struggling with the most. Just we go through so many different things, and there's some tools that I use. I send my clients a lot of forms to fill out beforehand. There's a whole long health history. I
Hmm.
use a couple of other tools that are really helpful. I take a strong look at what you're currently eating. I use a little food and mood journal for that. And then on an ongoing basis, we do a lot of just certainly following a individualized protocol based on the test results and also just the insights that I get on a clinical level from talking to you and getting to
Hmm.
know you and knowing what your own priorities and your goals are. And then we get to let that evolve over time. So I typically meet with my clients like every 2 or 3 weeks during that initial 6 months. I certainly have clients that I work with beyond that time too. Some of them I think will be with me for years to come, which is great. And we work on both developing the understanding and work through nutrition and supplements, especially when it comes to like doing an actual gut healing protocol based on the results that we get. There's a lot of supplements and things that we'll use. But beyond that, I really find myself talking to my clients a lot about the mindset behind what they're doing, like reminding them why they wanted to do this in the first place, why they decided to investigate their health, what their goals are, like what your life really can look like when you come out the other side of that. Like for me, I was once upon a time couch bound and feeling miserable and having to miss work, which I hate. I hate missing work.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
It gives
it's
you purpose.
frustrating and just feeling really struggling with mental health because of things like that, like having to miss out on my life, having to cancel plans, having a hard time building social connections because I didn't feel comfortable having to
the
work my
energy,
life
you just don't
around
have the
everything.
energy.
Yeah. And so that's a lot of what I do too, is just kind of helping to coach my clients along the way of how to keep yourself going on so you stay on track. So it's not just like, here's a protocol, go, let me know in 3 months, what the results are. But I'm really kind of their cheerleader and their coach and helping to remind them what their own priorities are and what's important to them. And even coaching them on, looking at not just what the problems are and what you're struggling with and what's not going well, which often becomes the focus on your health, but also reminding them to celebrate the wins along the way, the things that are going well. Okay, maybe you've been in a lot of pain, but maybe you also are starting to find that you have a little more energy or whatever it is, like the little milestones along the way and celebrating that, because your health really is a journey. And I know that you're well aware of that. It's not like, I have a 6-month program. That doesn't mean, from here until 6 months from now, everything is going to be perfect and amazing. You'll never have a health problem again or have to worry about it again. It also doesn't mean it's going to take 6 months to see any sort of results. It's more about just, we're walking the journey together and we are just taking one step closer to your goals every day. And I think if you just keep doing that.
For me, it's like, I have to think about that because this new program that I'm on, it's not really new for me now. I've been doing it since 2020. And I'm getting great results with it, but it's definitely different. It's odd to most people when I explain it to them. And so I'm on a 1 meal a day, an OMAD program, and I have an eating window that's about 4 hours a day and a very specific set of core foods. And it's odd for most people to say, wow, I could never do that. And it's like, well, yeah, you can. And the benefits are amazing, but it's effort. And I have to kind of remind myself, to your point of, it's not instant success. Even though I've been doing this for 2 years, it took me 60 years to get into the situation I was in.
Yeah.
Right. So I've got to remind myself, okay, I've got to give my body some time to get, and you mentioned it's not just the instant digestion of food and the daily stuff. It's what's going on in your mind and it all ties together, and your mindset is so critical in managing how your body reacts to things can be changed over time depending on your mindset. And that's a whole nother conversation, but it's an amazing thing. And I'm so proud of you for this journey that you're on and helping other women to do, to heal and be successful in their lives.
Yeah. Well, I think that's been one of the big things for me that's been really rewarding is, yes, in my business, I'm helping people who have endometriosis. Like in theory, I'm helping them to improve their symptoms and have less days that they're bloated and in pain and
Mm-hmm.
fatigue and all of the things that come along with it. But more importantly than that are the side effects that come out of that work. It's
Mm-hmm.
well, now I can really focus on my career because I don't have these symptoms getting in my way. I can work on building my relationships, whether romantic relationships or friendships or family relationships, whatever that may be, or getting back into hobbies. Like I was talking to a potential client just recently who was telling me that she used to really love horseback riding. And, because she's been going through everything that she's been going through, hasn't been able to do that. And it's really been bringing her down mentally because she misses doing that. And
Exactly.
helping people to be able to get back to that place in their life is really the part that I find magical and rewarding, because it's just,
Oh, yeah. So beautiful. That's the joy. And being able to do it without the side effects and creating
mm,
a long-term, this will last them for the rest of their life.
yeah.
And they now have the knowledge and they're in control. They're
Mm-hmm.
not dependent on a system or a protocol or a medication or some insurance company to tell them that they need to do this or else. It's, they understand what's going on because you're getting into the functional side, and you're helping them to get to the core issues and address those,
Mm-hmm.
work on fixing them. So uh, that's awesome. So proud of you.
Thank you.
So
Yeah,
I
I
wanted
love.
to take a look quickly at you've got a website
Mhm.
that looks amazing. So I'm gonna pull up your website,
Okay.
share the screen here. Can you see that?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, cool. So we've got and is endo belly ruling your life? And we just kind of talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and so you're addressing that, and you've got a free course.
Mm-hmm.
And now, is this only for women, or can guys get involved with this too?
Anybody can. The free course, there's definitely some, wording there. Like I definitely talk about endometriosis and women's health and things like that. But the actual meat of what's in there can definitely be beneficial for anybody.
Okay. All right, cool. So, and a little intro, more about Alyssa, and then from your blog. So you have a blog now. So I'm going to click on see more articles, see what happens. We'll do a little. So there's your blog.
Yeah, which the blog has really largely at this point become my podcast. So I
Okay.
just launched
So
a
yeah, this is
podcast.
from your podcast. So I'm going to go switch over to
Yeah.
your podcast.
Yeah, just a little over a week ago. So it's a brand new podcast. I've got 4 episodes up so far,
That is
and I've been having a lot of
fantastic.
fun doing it.
So what got you started doing the podcast versus just a blog on your website?
Yeah, so I had been doing the blog. I still have all my posts up there that had been going on for, I think, a little over a year, maybe even closer to a year and a half. And I really enjoyed that. I like writing and all of that, but I really love podcasts. I listen to podcasts a lot. I've been a
Okay.
guest on probably a dozen-ish podcasts at this point and have really enjoyed that experience. And I just
Mhm.
really thought it was going to be a wonderful medium for getting this information out there. And I was even getting some feedback from people saying, I really love your blog, but honestly, I just don't have time to sit down and read a blog post, which is understandable. I can honestly say I feel the same way. I don't always sit down and read people's blog posts.
Right.
And so I thought that a podcast would be a little bit more accessible for people because, like me, I listen to podcasts while I drive and while I cook dinner and things like that. Like I multitask
Right.
because I like to be efficient and get things done and get all the things done that I need to do. And so I really love that avenue. And I honestly, I've gotten some wonderful feedback from it. I was thinking it was going to be a really slow start because things often are when you're starting a brand new venture.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been overwhelmed with the amount of positive feedback that I've gotten. People reaching out to me, just looking at seeing that people are downloading my podcast all over the world. I have people as far as like Africa and Australia and Asia listening to the podcast,
Oh,
which
that's
is
awesome.
mind-blowing. And so it's really been a fun adventure so far, and I'm really excited to see where it goes in the future.
Well, that's fantastic. And then you have an Instagram
Mhm.
with lots of fun little posts up there, all kinds of little
Yeah.
tidbits and little nuggets and
Yeah.
fun. I love that. Your countdown to your podcast there.
Yep.
That was great.
Thank
It's
you.
like a creative outlet for you too. I can tell you really
It is.
enjoy doing it.
Yeah, all of it is. The Instagram, the podcast, like it's all been a wonderful creative outlet for me. I really enjoy being creative. Like you were saying before, my background is in classical ballet. I was a dancer and
Uh-huh.
have been a teacher for many years and choreographer and all of that good stuff. And so I love having that creative outlet, and it's been a really fun avenue for that. So it's definitely a good way to connect with me too. Like I just recently did a Q&A episode. That's the one that aired yesterday at the time that we're recording this anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be doing little Q&A episodes on a regular basis too. So if anyone has any specific questions that you want answered, if you had a question come up even during this interview, you can, send me a little message, and I can include that in the next
So where
podcast.
would they go to send you a message? What's the best place?
On Instagram there is fine.
Just
Just hitting
Instagram?
that message button. Just send me a little
Yeah,
DM, and yeah,
very cool. So a message right here. Just click on that
that's it.
and it pops up. Oop, I don't use Instagram very often, so
Yeah.
I'm just gonna leave that one alone. But
That
well, that's
works.
fantastic. You're doing an awesome job there.
Yeah, thank you.
And yeah, so wow, time goes by so quick.
It does.
I have one more question. Do you have time for one
Sure.
more?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely.
Okay, great. I ask this of everybody that comes on the show. It's with taking your whole life and looking at everything you've done. What's the boldest leadership decision that you've made,
Ooh, that's a great question.
and what are the consequences?
Good or bad consequences, or all of the above.
It's a story. It's all a story.
I think, honestly, my boldest move, I think, is starting my own business.
Okay.
Because I mean, as far as leadership goes, my vision is becoming kind of a leader for people who are struggling with this particular condition of endometriosis, and being somebody that people can go to and actually get answers that will help them. But of course, starting your own business is a lot. I mean, it's an undertaking that I definitely don't recommend for everybody.
Not for the faint of heart,
It's
right?
not. But it's one of those, it takes a lot, but it also gives a lot. So it's a matter of how you're willing to balance that, because I found that, especially right now, like at this point in time, I'm a solopreneur, so I don't have staff, I don't have a team. Hopefully somewhere down the line that will happen, but in the meantime, it's just me. So like the podcast episodes, for example, I am recording them myself in my closet because that is the most acoustic room in
Yep.
my house.
Been there, done
I am
that.
editing them myself. I am uploading them myself. I am sharing them to all the platforms myself, and also promoting them and creating the graphics for the social media, like everything that you see, the website, the Instagram. I do, weekly emails to my email list, putting together that free course that's up on my website. Like everything that you see all came from these two hands and this brain right here. So it's a lot, just even keeping up with the week to week tasks. And at the same time, I am working with one-on-one clients. So then I'm
Yeah.
also
Right. Yeah,
actually working.
you gotta do the work. And
Yeah.
then and on top of that, you're still are you would you say cured of your endometriosis?
I think cured is a little bit of a challenging word with this particular condition. I don't
Okay.
know if that's even a term that you could use, but I think I am In remission is a word, kind of like with cancer, people will use that terminology. I've heard that used with endometriosis. I definitely have seen enormous improvements.
Okay.
As far as like symptoms are next to nothing at this point in time. I still have a few lingering things that I'm working on, but again, it's a health journey. So it's something that I'll be on this pathway kind of for life. But
And is it like one size fits all? Like when you work with someone, is it like the same program every time, or is everybody
definitely
different?
not. I mean, the general process is the same as far as kind of how I take them through the testing, and kind of, I guess the formula that I follow
Okay, you've got a
is the
framework.
same. Yeah, a framework. That's a good way to say it. But really, it's very bio-individual. And that's one of the main principles in my practice, is that it's very individualized to each person. So even the nutrition recommendations that I give, the supplements that we use, the lifestyle recommendations that I'll talk about, things like that, it's all very individual, because everyone, even though it may be even having the same symptoms, everyone's coming from different places, different backgrounds, different health history, different lifestyle. And it's a matter of figuring out what works best in all of the ways, what will actually fit into your life right now. I have to meet people where they are. Some people have really busy, high power careers. I
Mhm.
tend to, for whatever reason, attract a lot of people who are also high achievers like myself,
Well, sure.
and are,
Yeah.
really
You got that
gung-ho in
energy
their
that's that
careers.
you attract who you are.
Yeah, exactly. And so then it's a matter of balancing that out. Whereas I've also worked with people who work very part-time and have a lot more freedom in their schedules, and maybe, able to do more things. And so it's a matter of kind of figuring that out and working with each person, meeting them where they are, and going from there.
So what's your ideal client look like? I mean, where are they today?
Um, Most of the clients that come in are typically 30s and 40s. I've had some younger, some a little older, just depending on, where they are in their journeys, and typically are kind of in the thick of trying to figure out what is going on in their bodies. Most people have already gone down the conventional medical route in some degree. Many have already had surgery, maybe have tried medications before and not really enjoyed the journey of that, and are just looking for deeper answers, better answers, solutions that will actually support them long term, like what you were saying a little bit ago. And those are really the people that tend to want to work with me.
Okay.
The people also who really want to understand their bodies. That's, like I said, I'm a big learner. I love learning. I have about 4,000 books in my,
Yeah.
at least I wish I did. If I had room for 4,000 books.
Well,
Uh,
I used to keep hardbound. Now I just put them on here.
yeah, I did have to get a Kindle because my library was getting a little excessive. I
Yeah, me
I
too.
do still like the paper books, the real books for certain things, but especially like fiction books and stuff, when I'm reading those, I'm all about the Kindle now, because it does save a whole lot of space. It's a little lighter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tend to attract those same type of people who are like, I want to know what is going on in my body. I want to learn all the things. And I have worked, obviously I work mostly with women with endometriosis, but sometimes I'll have people come to me be like, hey, I don't have endometriosis, but I really love everything that you're saying, and I want to get to the root of what's going on. Can you help me too? Yeah, of course. I
Okay.
don't
All right. Good
discriminate.
to know. Good to know. Well, I
Yeah,
know I know it's important to have a focus. So,
yeah, for sure.
but excellent. Well, thank you so much, Alyssa.
Very welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and if you're interested in I'd like to talk to you more about doing that test.
Yeah, yeah, let's talk about it. That would be a lot of fun.
Okay, cool. So I'll we'll set that up and have you on again.
Perfect. Sounds
All right.
great.
So hang on a sec. I'm gonna
Okay.
say goodbye. So thanks for joining me, and we'll talk to you soon.